Welcome back to the GogertZone Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Gogerty, co-hosted here by my dear friend, Connor Calzone. Today, we're going to be breaking down running back tiers for this fantasy season, who belongs in the elite group, who's overhyped, who could be your league-winning sleeper. Let's jump into the zone and get into those RB rankings.
Let's get into the zone.
If you couldn't tell, that was completely ChatGPT generated. We suck at coming up with intros, and we wanted to see what Chat could come up with. So jumping into the zone is going to be the new way of introducing our episodes. So happy to be here with you today, Connor, for our running back tiers. How are you? I'm so excited for this one.
I'm so ready to jump into the zone, man. I mean, running backs, they're the most volatile position in fantasy football, and that's what your season comes down to, is how you draft your running backs. You know, wide receivers, you can get those guys on the waivers more often. You can get those guys in round 8, round 9, round 10, but hitting on your early running back picks is crucial to winning fantasy football. So this should be a very informative episode for all of our viewers that are watching. And a quick shout out just to the network that is sponsoring us. Yeah, we have a sponsor. That sounds so official, right? The Coast to Coast the Fantasy Sports Network. We are partnering with them. It's a primarily fantasy basketball Discord server. It's got about 200 members, but we're going to try to start a fantasy football arc in that Discord. So
let's go. Sponsored pod.
Yeah, that's official, right? So let's just get right into this, Ryan. So we have some graphics prepared, which is going to be Ryan's running back rankings. I'm going to tell him when he's stupid and wrong about his rankings, because I have my own rankings on the side, and I've also done a fancy little average of my rankings, Ryan's rankings, and ESPN's
You did some
rankings.
Excel magic.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
That's kind of my day job. Some skills. So it's going to be something useful that I get out of my day job.
Hey, don't let your day job know about your next day job, which will be this.
My night job. It's almost 11 p.m. by the time that we're recording this, so there's going to be some silly, goofy
We're doing great. Bedtime is definitely not something we prioritize today. We're in a silly, goofy mood. We're ready to record a late night ep. And I'm ready to get yelled at by you for having shit takes, so let's get into it.
let's get right into the S tier.
Yeah, the S tier. I'm going to call this tier. Every tier is going to have its own little name. And by the way, we like to do this because the tiered system kind of helps you feel out where there's a drop off in your mind. So if you're in a draft and you're kind of like, there's a group of people that I would really like to see here. I only want someone from this position if I can get them at this value. And then you might be able to put that on the back burner. If you don't get them for later, consider it a different tier. Started off with the S tier. For those of you who don't know, that's the top tier. It's above A tier. It's the absolute best, and in this case, we're going to call this one elite, because that's what we got. And I'm going to be giving you 100% accurate rankings. No matter what Connor says, I'm right, and by the end of the year, this is going to be how it is, because I correctly predicted Saquon was going to be RB1 with the fluke of sitting out Week 18 last year. So this is it.
You know how petty I am, though.
These are going to be the top 4
I will
running backs.
Look at these at the season's end. I will take a look at every single one of your takes, every single one of mine. I will statistically determine whose was better.
We have to do that. We have to. If we make it to the end of the season, actually filming a podcast every week, then we should absolutely be doing that for sure by the end of the season. But that being said, running back 1, no surprise if you're a second season listener, Saquon Barkley, absolutely going to finish RB1. And this is not something that I do lightly. I am a huge Giants fan. Him going over to the Eagles was like heartbreaking, and some Giants fans did not like that. Like, they're like, Saquon, you're a bad dude or something like that. I'm like, he left an incompetent organization, yes, my own, to go join and win the Super Bowl for the Eagles, and he did amazing. Literally was the best running back in fantasy football by quite a margin, until he sat out Week 18 and Jahmyr Gibbs went off in Week 18. But that being said, Saquon RB1, Bijan RB2, surprising a lot of folks. Jahmyr RB3 and McCaffrey RB4. Before I get your take on these, I just want to point out, Bijan, he's been so the consensus of him just being like clear-cut RB1, no doubt. Obviously, we could all be wrong. I mean, I can't, but like, we all could be wrong by the end of the season. And people just are not open to the idea of one of these other running backs taking the number 1 spot. Jahmyr Gibbs being 3, he could easily be 1 by a mile. Jahmyr, depending on if he splits some touches with Montgomery with a new OC, he'd be way further down. And McCaffrey, it's a health issue. If you trust your gut, if you're just going to make that bet that he's going to be healthy for 17 games, then you should have an elite top 3-4 running back on your hands, and these are 4 that I think are kind of in a league of their own. So that's my S tier. please slap me in the face with it.
Yes. Okay. So let's start this off here. I love your top three. I have them all in a different order, but that's like we said, it is splitting hairs at this point.
It is pretty
I have
consensus,
Bijan
right?
Robinson at 1. I have Jahmyr Gibbs at 2, and I have Saquon at 3. I guess the lucky thing for you is that Saquon technically did not finish as the RB1 because no running back has ever repeated as RB1. So if we're gonna look at history saying that, if you're gonna look at history saying that, then Saquon Barkley would not really be in contention to finish RB1 this year. If obviously
but there is a good argument.
Paint the future.
You and I are math people, and we know that that's not so much because like they weren't supposed to. It's like even if they were the most probable to the next year, that probability still might only be like an 8% chance that they're the number one running back.
Running backs that they're competing with. But like I said, Saquon, Bijan, and Jahmyr Gibbs, it's splitting hairs at 1, 2, and 3. But I think that S tier is elite, big question mark. I don't trust the health of Christian McCaffrey. I've said this in, I think, both the first 2 episodes. I just don't think that we can trust Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthy for a 17-game slate. I mean, we got more coverage on Red Zone and football sports networks last year about his injury than we actually saw Christian McCaffrey's screen time playing football. Like, how are we going to assume that he's just magically healed his decrepit legs and his decrepit calves? Like, I mean, obviously he's got better knees than me, but like, assuming that he's going to be RB4 when there's some of these other guys that got fresh legs, good situations for big running production, and have a much higher likelihood of playing 17 games. I don't see it.
There is a big, there's a number that goes around. There's a big drop off in running back productivity once you get past age 28. And last year I think he was 29, so this year he'll be 30. And there is something to be said about that. But regardless, there is the nagging injury prone type player. There's something genetic for soft tissue injuries, and it seems to be something that nags Christian McCaffrey quite often. I've had him in his injury prone years. I had him in the worst year when he was, projected number 1 and then ended up playing like 2.5 games or something that year. And then I also had him 2 years ago in 2023 where he just kicked butt all over the field. It was amazing. So I'm saying if you want an elite running back off of the assumption that he's healthy, that's what you got there. I think if he plays, you should absolutely be giving him consideration to be RB1 by the end of the year.
Yeah, just for transparency's sake, I've got him as my RB7. So I think there are other guys that I would trust rather than Christian McCaffrey's injury concerns. I mean, we thought back in 2021 that he was just going to always be that amazing running back, but always have those nagging injury concerns. For 2022 and in 2023, I believe it was, he kind of pushed those concerns aside, basically played 2 full seasons, and it really surprised some folks. It's like, wow, like kind of a mid to late career revival of just staying healthy, but with especially combining it with the injury concerns that he had in the beginning part of his career, I can't honestly portray a healthy season out of him. So I mean, he's gonna be great. He's gonna have some great games, but like I've said in previous episodes, I also think that there's going to be he's not going to be getting as many touches as he did in 2023 when he was a healthy workhorse back that was getting a bazillion touches a game. So we disagree on Christian McCaffrey, but whatever the order is of 1, 2, 3, I think that it's pretty hard to argue who 1, 2, and 3 are.
Yeah, and it's interesting because ESPN does have him at number 4, so you're actually going a little bit away from the ESPN projections. I think what we're going to see is that I actually have a few more outlandish takes than you did going into this, but you have McCaffrey a little bit further down, so that's interesting. So it'll be dependent on his health. It'll be fun to see. So that's our S tier, elite. But we know to help you guys with your drafts, you're going to see a lot more.
You missed the 4th elite right there.
Elite. Meant it though. He is elite. But then going on to the A tier, this is going to be where the meat of your draft comes. If you are making a decision, if you want to go wide receiver in the first round, or maybe reach for a tight end in the second round, and you have to, make a concession one way or the other, you're looking at these late first rounders, second round, maybe early third round running backs. I'm calling these guys reliable workhorses. These are guys I look at and I'm like, they're going to get a bunch of touches, maybe have a little bit of involvement in the passing game, depending what kind of player they are, like Devon Achane versus others. But these are guys that I absolutely have no concerns about volume, whether it be what they've done in the past or what their coaches said that they're going to be doing at them this year. These are guys that touch the ball a ton of times. You expect them to again. And let's just rattle them off real quick. Ashton Johnson 5, Henry 6, Josh Jacobs 7, Chase Brown 8. Bucky Irving 9, Jonathan Taylor 10, Kyron Williams 11, Devon Achane 12. So I have Devon Achane a slight bit lower, but like I said, these guys, maybe with the exception of Bucky Irving, I have all the confidence in the world are going to be volume workhorses. It's just going to be a matter of efficiency and how much they get involved in the passing game. But that being said, I do have some pretty serious takes. Ashton Shanti, I am getting so excited watching these preseason tapes of Ashton. He is just running people over,
Makes
and
me
everyone's
want to
just
run
like,
somebody over, man.
it gets me riled up, man. I saw some old head, some like all-star from the 80s was like, he's the combination of Barry and like some other guy, and the hype is real. I haven't heard a running back talked about like this going into his rookie season since Saquon. And I think it's really important to remember that 2 years ago in college, he was a passing game star. This was before last season when they just handed him the rock a bunch of times. He just got 200 yards rushing. So he is truly an all-around threat, Pete Carroll offense, where he loves to have a workhorse back. I think he's going to do great things.
And a back that is involved in the passing offense. I mean, Marshawn Lynch and them back in the day, they were always involved in the passing offense. And the point you make, too, that Ashton Jeanty used to be 2 years ago a big player in the passing game. You think about the Vegas Raiders backup running back being Raheem Mostert, also not known for his passing involvement. So some running back's going to have to be out there in passing sets.
Also, Raheem Mostert has been 30 years old for 7 years now. So it's like he has to fall off eventually. I don't want that for him. I love Mostert. He did great I had him 2 years ago when he scored 20 touchdowns on the Dolphins.
I mean, one of the craziest years.
He's a older speedster that will break out a couple long runs, but he's not going to be given the rock a million times. I fully expect Ashton John to be amazing. I just want to point out one other thing. I'm pretty high on Derrick Henry this year. I know a lot of people are like excited about him, but plenty of people think he's going to fall off or just like that age is going to catch up to him. I think he's going to fall in the end zone again. I think he's got that LeBron-esque keep himself healthy for a long period of time, and he's going to do that really, really well. The rest of the guys here, I don't have a ton to say. Like Bucky Irving is just one of those super talented guys that, even if Rachaad White starts to creep into his volume share, he's that guy that efficiency could outdo it. Devon Achane, a passing game star. I mean, he has the potential to be a super boom guy. And then Jonathan Taylor, Danny Dimes announced as the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts today. I think that's actually a really good thing for him because if the offense gets better, everyone in fantasy benefits. So I think Jonathan Taylor also is going to have a good year.
Yeah, I think from a purely football perspective, Daniel Jones probably was the right pick for the Colts starter. I mean, Anthony Richardson's obviously got so much more potential, and he's got more long-term potential than Danny Sents or whatever.
Danny Nichols.
Yeah, Nichols is giving him a lot of credit. You only going down from Dimes to Nichols. That's like a Ugandan cent. I mean, that thing's got no value. But he is going to make the Colts offense a lot better. I think it's a big push for the Colts wide receivers too, but that's for another episode. As we talked about in episode 2 a lot, me and you both very high on Derrick Henry. I actually have him as my RB5. You have him as your RB6. ESPN has him as RB9.
You've Ashton below Henry.
I've Ashton at 4. I have Christian McCaffrey at 7.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So I have Ashton as my RB4, and I have a Derrick Henry as my RB5. Just so for what it's worth, from the ADP perspective, he is actually being drafted as RB7. So the consensus of people, I think they're watching our episode 2 of the podcast. So obviously,
right,
that caught those 300 people that watched episode 2. That's influencing the millions of people doing mock drafts.
Props to each of you, by the way. I predicted 50. We got 300. So keep it up, guys. Like and subscribe. Turn on notifications.
Do all that YouTube bullshit. But yeah, Derrick Henry, like we've said it. We said it in episode 2, so I'm not gonna belabor it. Like he's no slower, he's no less strong. He's gonna continue being a beast like he was last year, running over people, making people look like absolute children, getting bodied. Something I want to point out is
your nose healed from your fight with him, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he looked a lot worse. So. Devon Achane is just too low, though. I mean, I was kind of dancing around it, but Devon Achane is way too low. He cannot be RB12. If Tua is healthy, this is going to be a pretty good offense. Devon Achane has been one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL for the last 2 seasons. Yeah. And he is involved heavily in the passing game. And Tua loves his check down. I mean, he loves giving it to Tyreek, but he also loves his check down. RB12, I mean, you have him below, like, Kyron Williams. I mean, we don't know what Matthew Stafford's going to look like at the beginning of the season. Jonathan Taylor is on a... on a rough offense, a rough Colts offense. I cannot say anything bad about my Lord and Savior, Bucky Irving. He deserves to be RB0. He's better than RB1. But he's in about the right. He's in about the right space. But Devon Achane is too low. Yeah. Everyone else, I'm pretty happy with your rankings. So you're not too stupid yet. I have Kyron lower.
Okay, all right. So no true face slaps yet. All right.
No,
well, I have two counterpoints.
I just want to say really quickly too. I do have Kyron Williams quite a decent amount lower. I do have him at 17, just because of the uncertainty on the Rams offense, and I think that Blake Corum is going to start creeping into that Los Angeles Rams backfield as the season goes on. Kyron Williams did not really do anything that crazy last year that makes me confident that he's going to retain his share when the Rams did use a pretty high draft pick on him in 2024 for running backs perspective.
My counter to that is they did give him a nice payday. I think they gave him like $11 million a year for 3 years. That's at least a verbal vote of confidence, or a written vote of confidence by the GM.
Confidence.
Yeah, it's, a couple dollar signs. For the volume, but I could see it going either way. I just know that I like a McVay offense. I like having a piece of McVay offense. But fair enough. My two counterpoints before we go on to Tier B. Devon Achane, I would like to use your argument against you with the health, which is Tua going to stay healthy. I'm more on the I would actually probably bet Tua's going to have a full season before I would bet Christian would have a full season. Mm-hmm. But again, I kind of have an internal issue with the smaller running backs. Not calling you small, Devon. I know you're an NFL player. Please don't come after me. If you're one of our 300 viewers, please don't find my house. But he's one of those guys that I think his efficiency is insane. He's an amazing athlete, and yes, just used out the wazoo in the passing game. RB12 ain't no joke, but I think that someone that small is just destined to get beat up quicker. I think the smaller running backs are a little bit harder for the durability, but I can see it going either way. So I have no problem with you saying that he should be higher. And last point I wanted to really quick, Chase Brown, RB8. I think that would surprise a lot of people. He got given the rock so many times last year. I think 300 touches.
Especially the last few games of the season when that Bengals offense was absolutely firing on all cylinders. He averaged 100 yards per game in the last 4 games when the Bengals were kind of fighting for their lives.
So
and I think they're going to come out hungry.
Look for him in the end of the second round. If you have an early pick, like a 1, 2, 3 in a 12-team draft, and you're looking towards the end of the second round, Chase Brown is a wonderful. He might get the ball 300 times again. He's projected to have 16.5 points a game. Keep that in mind. Chase Brown might be the sleeper running back of this A tier. But let's get on to the B tier. Getting into the depth arena, solid guys, but have a little bit of caution. In my opinion, these are guys that I would be happy to have, but with a little bit of caution. I'd be on a little bit higher alert with these guys. James Cook, RB13, Kenneth Walker III, 14, Kamara 15, Omarion Hampton, the rookie for the Chargers, 16, Breece Hall 17, Chuba Hubbard 18, and James Conner 19. So all of these guys are solid in their own way and have to be a little bit cautious in their own way. The ones that stand out to me, Breece Hall, Jets offense, Justin Fields. We don't have to talk about the preseason game. That's fine. We can just say he threw the ball away on purpose. He didn't just throw it 5 feet in front of the receiver. No problem with that. I think the Jets might have an okay year, depending on how Justin Fields plays. But that being said, Breece Hall's one of those guys, insane talent. Are they going to give him the rock as much? Because I'm high on Braylon Allen as well. And even when he does, are the Jets just going to be good enough on offense? So that stands out to me a little bit. And James Conner. James Conner's been so solid. Last year, actually healthy. He only averaged, I think, 14 games a year for his entire career, and that was a big talking point going into last year. He's getting older and older. He went and had a full healthy season last year, and he just finds a way in fantasy football to just consistently produce. But he is older, and he does have an injury history, so that's where you kind of want to have that caution. But any of these guys, you would be more than happy to have as your second running back. Even if you played a 0 RB strategy, this would be, plenty fine being your RB1 if you needed to. So really, really like this B tier myself personally. What would you slap me across the face for in this one?
You know what? Nothing too bad in this B tier, I think. Ryan, you did a decent job.
3 tiers without a full face slap yet. This is great.
There's a few mini face slaps that I gave you on those first 2 tiers.
Little flicks.
Yeah, a little flick on the head. Like I said in the B tier, I had Kyron Williams as in the A tier, I should say. I had him as RB17, so I think he fits more into this tier. Just like they have They're solid. They have a lot of potential, but like I would not be counting on Kyren Williams to be delivering RB1 value on a week-to-week basis. So I think he fits more in this tier. I totally agree on James Cook. He's on a very explosive Buffalo Bills offense. He was really getting utilized in the second half of last season. You worry about some of the Josh Allen tush pushes stealing some of his touchdowns, but at the end of the day, I think that's what makes him a solid, high-end RB2, if not maybe a low-end RB1 at a best-case scenario. Amari and Hampton, I mean, Najee Harris, I'm not sure that he's got a second eye. Like, at this point, we don't know.
On both.
I'm not sure we know. I'm not sure we know. He might be a Pirate. He might be Blackbeard.
I might have the insider scoop on Najee actually having both eyes working. We'll get to that later. But I'm high on both Chargers running backs. You'll see in a little bit because Jim Harbaugh offense, second year for Justin Herbert in that offense. He's going to get more comfortable. Added Keenan Allen back. I expect the offense to be improved. They have two of the best tackles in the NFL.
Yeah.
And Ryan Hampton just getting all the buzz out of camp. And with a, supposedly one-eyed Najee Harris sideline for all of camp.
Yeah.
Omari Hampton is shaping up to be, possibly leading running back in a fantastic running first offense.
Totally agree with you. And I do like that you gave Kamara his flowers as well. You do have him a little bit higher. Our ESPN's got him at RB16. You have him as RB15.
I'm not bumping him down until he proves me wrong.
I have him all the way up at RB12. I mean, I just think that Kamara has shown year and year again, it does not matter how bad the Saints are. I mean, he was a top 10 running back last year. It doesn't matter how bad the Saints are.
I think he's
going to get 8 receptions a game. He's not going to score many touchdowns, but who cares? In PPR, Alvin Kamara, I'll take you as my RB2 every single day of the week.
With the exception of that 1, 2, 3 year stretch with Mark Ingram where they just both went off.
Yeah.
It's I think he would rather be on a worse team because he just gets the ball a million times.
Yes.
So
the only thing that I want to say about this tier that's my flick in the face for your B tier is Kenneth Walker. I think that RB14 is a little high. You do align pretty well with ESPN at RB15. I have him down at RB19. I think that the Seahawks are really going to start utilizing Zach Charbonnet more. We saw that when Kenneth Walker was injured last season, Zach Charbonnet got a lot of work. He was really, really productive, and he was more efficient than Kenneth Walker as well in scenarios where, when your top running back goes down, you expect the efficiency to go down. You just got to run the ball, right? You can't just completely abandon the run game, but you really want to focus more on the passing side of things when your top RB goes down, but that's not what the Seahawks did. I really think that this is going to be a split backfield, and Kenneth Walker's not particularly a power back either, right? So he doesn't have that huge touchdown upside, Zach Charbonnet is by far and away the better pass catcher in that backfield. So third down opportunities, it's going to be Zach Charbonnet on the field almost every single time. So I think Kenneth Walker's a little bit high, but you kind of agree with ESPN there. That's my flick in the face there. And just to give my Jets a little bit of credit, I have Breece Hall all the way up at RB14. You have him at RB17, I think it was. But I got in a draft on Sunday. I was able to get Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, and Breece Hall all in the same draft, and I was so happy about that. I got Breece Hall in the 5th round. Cool. He's falling in a lot of drafts, guys, so beware of that. Breece Hall is falling in a lot of drafts. You can snag him late 4th, early 5th in a lot of drafts, and for a guy who has had, I mean, he people act like he had such a bad year last year, but he really did not. He had almost 60 receptions on the season, right? So PPR, that's a ton of value. He only rushed for 876 yards. That's something to be a little bit wary of. But he also, I don't know. I have a soft spot because he's a Jet, but I think that he's going to have a huge bounce back season. Not into RB1 territory, let's say, but he's going to be a very solid RB2 that you can count on for his receptions.
Everyone to draft Breece Hall, then Garrett Wilson, then Justin Fields, then Braylon Allen. I'll do it, man. Tyler Conklin, I have to.
He's not even on the Jets anymore. He's on the Chargers.
He's not?
Yeah, he's on the Chargers.
Who's your tight end now?
Mason Taylor. Drafted him. He's the son of whatever his face is.
I'll need to study up for our tight end tiers then. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, B tier, small flick in the face. You stood your ground for Breece Hall. Don't hate that. Kenneth Walker III, volume dependent. Look out for rookie Amari and Hampton. Absolutely in keeper leagues. I'm going to be keeping my eye out on him for keeper leagues for sure. How about we move on to the C tier?
Let's do it.
C tier is a fun one. C tier is the boom bust potential. These are the guys that, by the end of looking back on this exercise last year when we did RB rankings, we did these tiers, and there's some of these guys that were on this list. I was like, oh wow, like some of these guys just fell off the face of it. Like they were not even close to relevant. There's like some rookies you talk about. There's some sophomores you expect to take a jump. There's some shares of touch carry, like who's going to get the most touches, and you're just not sure about a lot of these things. But then you get into a season where there's just someone that's being given so much confidence by others. RJ Harvey is that guy for the Denver Broncos. So RJ Harvey at 20 might actually be a steal. As a rookie, there's always the chance they fall, they just don't get involved as much as they're saying they are, but RJ Harvey has the chance to be that. But let's go through them real quick. Harvey 20, Travion Henderson 21, Tony Pollard 22, Montgomery 23, Isaiah Pacheco 24, DeAndre Swift 25, and Aaron Jones 26. So this stands out to me as if you do have a slap in the face for me in this round, I have no problem with it because any of these guys I could see being a top 10 running back by the end of the year or falling off of a cliff.
Yeah, so RJ Harvey one of them, but it's okay. I'll let you finish then.
So RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson, rookies just blasting onto the scene. The expectation is that they're going to be electric playmakers. Got John Gruden on a podcast who, I think he knows Sean Payton decently well. He's like, expect Sean Payton to give that guy RJ Harvey 300 touches this year. And if that's true, he should be in the top 10 conversation because the Broncos are a good team. They made the playoffs last year. You would only expect that not Zach Wilson. Oh my gosh, I'm like, what's the quarterback's name?
Bo Nix.
For the Broncos? Bo Nix. Oh my gosh, I was thinking
Bo Nix, Zach Wilson. I mean, potato.
Bo Nix, you expect to improve in his second year, but even if he doesn't, that's a good Denver team, and 300 touches in that offense with Sean Payton has a great potential. Tony Pollard, same deal. Surprising amount of volume last year. You wouldn't think it, just trying to remember what he did last year, unless maybe you had him on your team. But yeah, same deal there. David Montgomery, new OC in Detroit, but he's one of those guys that can fall into the end zone 10 times in a year and get just enough touches a game where he could pop out 11, 12 points a game. Isaiah Pacheco, this is one of those guys that could bounce back in a big way. Kind of got written off after breaking his tibia last year. Or was it tibia or whatever it was? It was the one down by the shin.
Fibula, I believe it was.
Fibula, okay, whatever it was. And highly recommend looking into the Chiefs documentary on ESPN because they go into his recovery a little bit. He should be back running just as angry as he was before. RB24 might be way too low, but there's also a chance that he's kind of permanently scarred by that injury and they give someone else more reps in the camp. We'll see how that goes. And DeAndre Swift. Oh my gosh, I'm excited for DeAndre Swift. I'm thinking, and a lot of people are saying this, and it might be a little bit exaggerated, Jahmyr Gibbs light. Think of him as the pass-catching running back in the Ben Johnson offense from the Lions the last 2 years. You got to get excited about that. And Caleb Williams looked amazing in his preseason game the other day. We shouldn't overreact to that, of course.
Yeah, Easton Stick also looked really good.
And the halfback screens. Think about all the time Ben Johnson's offense in the Lions last year just did some crazy pass backwards to the tackle and then he ran for a touchdown. It's like DeAndre Swift is going to get the ball a bunch of times and he is still young and a great playmaker, so I expect him to do great. And Aaron Jones is one of those guys that was a surprising boom last year, but we'll have to see how the touches go because that could be determining if he's fantasy relevant at all this year.
Yeah, I've got a flick in the face for you, and then I've got a slap in the face for you. I'm just gonna outlay it like that. Isaiah Pacheco, you're right. You're being too low on him. ESPN's being too low on him. The whole world is being too low on him. The Chiefs are going to be amazing next year. They are going to come out angry. Travis Kelce, this is probably his last year before retirement. He needs to show Taylor Swift that he's not a little cuck, that he is a big dog, right? The Chiefs are going to come out the Chiefs are going to come out so angry, and like you said, Kareem Hunt is not going to have this big impact on the offense this year. It is going to be the Isaiah Pacheco show coming off of this big injury. I mean, he broke his leg in fucking half, and he came back like 7 weeks later. I mean, there was no way he was 100%, but now he is. He's going to dominate that Chiefs backfield. I have him at RB20. Yeah. You had him at RB24 or 25 or something like that. It's too low.
Yeah, it's probably too low.
But that's a flick in the face. I understand you being cautious on him, but I do like the DeAndre Swift take.
The nature of the boom bust, right?
I do like the DeAndre Swift take. I gotta say that as well. The Bears offense. I mean, what the Bears head coach and what the Bears coaches and offensive coordinators have been doing in that organization the last 3 years. It's got to break the Geneva Convention, right? Like, there's no way. It was a war crime what they were doing there. They actually have a competent offensive coordinator now. And I think that DeAndre Swift is going to benefit greatly from that. But here is your
Yeah.
slippity slap in the face. Travion Henderson. Know the name. The hype train is 100% justified for Travion Henderson. He looks
Oh, okay.
amazing. And Ramondre
I thought you were
Stevenson,
going to go the other way.
he's got a fumbling problem. We've known this for a while. That's why he got benched. Ramondre Stevenson got benched for Antonio Gibson at a point last year. And Travion Henderson is making huge news in camp. If Ramondre Stevenson can't really work out a every down role, or at least a 50-50 share of the role with Antonio Gibson as the lead back, Travion Henderson is going to take 85% of the touches in this Patriots backfield. And he is going to be elite, because I'm also really high when we get to the quarterback episode on Drake May. He is the real deal. It hurts to say this as a Jets fan, but he is the real deal. And the combination of Drake May and Travion Henderson next year is going to be elite. I have him as my RB16. So I think he is a high-end running back, too, that you can still get in the 4th, 5th round of ESPN mocks. I think that you should be doing that every single time.
You're looking at that 40 to 50 range now when you get down to these running backs. That's that 4th, 5th round turn kind of a deal. And yeah, you're totally right. Mike Vrabel, one of the other Belichick descendants, no forgiveness for fumbling. And you remember the Titans offense, it was give the freaking rock to Derrick Henry. So we'll see how that plays out. It's totally possible. But again, it goes into the theory of this C tier here. These are guys that could win you your league if you hit on them.
Yeah.
They're also guys that could lose your league. You can use a relatively good pick. This is a pick where you can be getting a really good tight end, another top tier receiver of sorts, and if you miss, it could end up being important. So boom bust C tier.
Yeah, there's a lot of wide receivers that clog up this 40 to 50 range, and a lot of them fall in drafts, which is something you do have to be wary of as well. You got to pick out those running backs early, because a running back ranked at 52 on ESPN is going to go before 48, 49, 50 wide receivers, right? Because running backs are at a premium. There's less running backs that can make an impact on a fantasy football week-to-week basis than wide receivers can. So beware.
Pro strategy out there. Pro draft strat note. D tier, Flex Fawcett. Please do not ask me what faucet means.
You beat me to it, dog.
Yeah. All these guys are you're happy if they are in your flex spot. Basically, the idea of the faucet, if you let it open. I don't know. The ChatGPT came up with the title. It wasn't my idea. The point being, these are guys that can fit right into your flex. These are guys that you're happy having your flex. Might end up being a solid RB2 by the end of the year. But by this point in the draft, this is where you're filling your flex position, and you kind of got to make some decisions here. And these decisions can be tough. So here we got Joe Mixon, RB27, Jalen Warren, 28, Najee Harris, 29. We have something we have to revisit for that. Javonte Williams, 30, Brian Robinson Jr., 31, Tyrone Tracy Jr., 32, Travis Etienne Jr., 33, and Tajay Spears, 34. You'll notice we had a 3 streak of juniors there. I was almost considering this the junior tier, but didn't want to do that. So what you'll notice here is that Najee Harris is actually perfectly healthy, because this picture says so. And it definitely was not taken before the 4th of July, when apparently the second I got blown off. So I'm actually totally fine with him being RB29 here. But on a serious note, I think that if his eye had exploded, we would have heard about that by now. I remember reading some sort of report.
So why haven't we heard that it hasn't exploded yet?
So the thing is, if he scraped his cornea or something like that, it might just take a little bit extra long to hear. But to get into the football aspect of things, we are relying on Amari Hampton, who I'm super high on. I think I'm at RB16. Jim Harbaugh offense.
Greg Merman OC
Najee Harris turned back the clock a little bit last year. He lost some weight. He got a little bit faster. I'm not saying he's a stud like he was his first year or whatever it was.
Or was in Alabama.
Yeah. Or his high school highlights that he's had like millions of views. But he is a former, I think, first round, I think it was a first rounder.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of reasons to prove people wrong. He didn't get the kind of contract that he was hoping coming out of his rookie deal. And he's just competing with a rookie, and this is a Jim Harbaugh offense that has been friendly to 2 running backs at once in the past. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got 50% of the touches and fell in the end zone a couple times. And, we're getting into that area where if the starter gets hurt, the second string guy all of a sudden gets a big uptick in share.
Right.
He could fall into the end zone, and I'm just personally a little bit high. I think I have a little bit of name value on him there. He's going to do well. Javonte Williams apparently has been absolutely showing out at Dallas camp. This also might be way too low for him. But if you get Javonte Williams as your flex, you should take it and run. That's going to be a great pick for you. Dallas Cowboys, I think, also have a lot to prove. And I hate saying that as a Giants fan, but I think he's going to have a good year. Brian Robinson Jr., interesting revelations. Connor was telling us before the podcast here. Might be sitting out. He has a little bit of competition via the form of a rookie, I'm hearing, over in Washington, D.C., definitely not occupied by military right now. And he's one of those guys that it's completely going to depend on if he plays the team. If he plays the team, he should have a decent year. No one really expects him to be a top 5 running back, maybe not even a top 10 running back at full capacity. But a young, good player, and you got to give him a little bit of that edge. He survived a gunshot wound and came back and played football in the same season, so you got to give something for that. But RB31,
right, how many points does that get you on a week-to-week basis? Is that 3 points for surviving a gunshot?
That should be baked into the rules. You should get a point per week if you're playing like within a year of a gunshot wound, like Ricky Pearsall or something like. By the way, I'm also way too low on. By the way, Tyrone Tracy Jr. Happy, not ecstatic about him as a Giants fan. I think he did a lot of good for, like, in a very low year. He was the one semi highlight that we had. So he should have a decent year. We'll see how much Cam Scatterbo kind of takes over. His I think that's a lot more hype than reality. But I think Tyrone Tracy Jr. will at least start the year as the RB1 for what should be a slightly more competent team. So I expect him to have a better year than he did last year, kind of depending on touches. Travis Etienne Jr. fell off a cliff in a way, but he still has the efficiency, or not the efficiency, the volume, not the efficiency, to be able to still make a 10-point week in your flex spot usable. And then if Tank Bixby gets hurt, God forbid, then all of a sudden you've got an RB1 in what again should be a nice improved offense with a lot of weapons. We'll see. We'll see. But we're at RB33 at this point. This is like the 70, 75, 6th, 7th round at this point. I'm not upset if I have to have ETN as my flex. And Tajay Spears, similar deal in Tennessee. I think that it's one of those guys that can get you anywhere between 8 and 12 points on a weekly basis and can creep his way up the ranks down the road. Not a boom bust, but you're okay having him at your flex.
So something that I like to say here, so a much better title than Flex Faucet would have been the fact that these guys are heavily dependent on the backfield split that we still don't really know 2 weeks before the start of the football season.
That's
right?
a good point.
Jaylen Warren versus Caleb Johnson. That's a battle that we're going to have.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Travis Etienne versus Tank Biskey. Tyrone Tracy versus Cam Scatterbo. Brian Robinson Jr. versus the rookie you're talking about is Jackery Krosky Merritt. Some people, for some reason, he goes by Bill.
Oh, that's a name.
His name is Jackery, but he goes by Bill.
No.
Yeah.
Jackery Krosky Merritt. He goes by Bill.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah,
he went up in ADP on ESPN. I just saw it on Monday. He was 190 ADP. Now he's 156. He is flying upwards, and I got him in a draft in the last round on Sunday before this hype kind of came. But Brian Robinson's trade request did come, I think it was Friday or Saturday, so it's been in the news for a few days, but people took a few days to adjust to it. If Brian Robinson sits out or gets traded, it's going to be him versus Austin Eckler. And do we think that Austin Eckler, like, he's a good pass catching back? Yeah, but like, is he going to be the guy you run it up the middle with 15 times a game? I'm not disrespecting, but I'm saying, are we going to see Austin Eckler running a halfback dive 15 times a game? I don't think we're going to see that. So you do have to, that's a Connor Calzone sleeper right there. You got to pick in the 14th round, and Jackery Krosky Merritt is still there. You want to take that. Yeah. But like I said, these guys are going to be so dependent on how much of their backfields share that they're able to gather. And Najee Harris, he's not going to gather enough of a share in order to be RB29.
I know, you're pretty low on it.
Just to point out, I mean, hey, I was high on Najee Harris in Pittsburgh, and he couldn't beat out Jaylen Warren for a job, and he looked awful compared to Jaylen Warren. He is running back 50 on ESPN, RB 46 by my metrics, and RB 29. We have a 17-spot difference on where we're valuing Najee Harris. Clip it. When he shows up to a game and he can only stiff arm with one arm because the other one's holding his eye socket that doesn't even have an eyeball anymore. Yeah, we'll see. But I mean, a little bit mean to Najee Harris. But he's not going to be a flex level running back on a week-to-week basis. I could say that with
Bro,
full
you're
confidence.
too
Tyrone Tracy,
funny.
I do think he's going to take most of the backfield snaps for the Giants, at least to start off. You know, Cam Scatterboot is a rookie and a pretty low drafted rookie at that. Tyrone Tracy used to be a wide receiver in college, so he's got that pass catching upside. And that's another thing that I want to point out. These are the two big things. The first one, like I said, was how much of the backfield they're able to get. The second one is when you're looking at running backs in this tier, you want ones with pass catching upside. Because in PPR, that's what gets you points. You want to get the Tajay Spears because Tony Pollard's not a pass catcher. Tajay Spears is going to catch balls. Tyrone Tracy's going to catch balls. Even Austin Eckler in the F tier, who I assume we're going to see him in the F tier. He's going to catch balls. Those are the late round flyers you want to take a crack with, unless you think it's going to be someone who, going back to rule 1, is going to take over a significant amount of the backfield share as the season progresses.
The urge to pause you was strong the last 2 minutes, but I didn't. So I'll just take your takes as is, and it's a good point because there's a lot of pass catchers in this.
Said I was yapping too much. Hey, fuck you, man.
No. I was you just kept saying catching balls, but it was childish.
Oh,
Whatever.
that's what you mean by pause. I thought you wanted me to stop talking. I was like, hey man, I was dropping some insights.
Yeah, you're like Travis Etienne catches balls, Tajay Spears catches balls.
Just catching balls. That's gonna get flipped.
If our 3,000 viewers saw the way we joke off,
3,000 now.
I think that'd be funny to just progressively say we have more and more. Be like our 5 million viewers on a weekly basis, and they're looking at it with like 50 views. I'm like, what the hell? I think that'd be a little. Yeah. Anyways, on to the next one.
One more thing I want to say, just quick.
Oh please,
Joe Mixon, target him in your drafts.
I was just gonna say
he's going as RB. Well. He's going as RB30. He's it's pick 93 or something is his ADP. I understand he's probably not going to be healthy at the beginning of the season. You have to be willing to understand that he's probably not going to play the first 3 weeks. But second half of the season, he's still the starting running back on a Houston Texans team that is going to have a decent offense, and he was pretty good last year. It's not like a new situation that he's going to be adjusting to while coming into an injury. I mean,
Mixon was playing really well. He was like a top 8 running back.
Yes.
And CJ Stroud was having an off year. He literally had a sophomore slump.
Yep.
You expect CJ Stroud to improve. You expect the Texans offense to be better.
Yep.
That's a great shot there. Joe Mixon, definitely target him at this point in your drafts. F tier, harsh grade. It's a mean kind of, I'm sure if any of these guys, of our 10,000 viewers saw this, then
right. I mean, you have to assume that 6 of these 10 guys are probably watching the podcast.
Right. Out of the 100,000 people that watch our podcast every time, you have to assume that some of these guys, and it's not that the F tier's that big. It's just a grading scale. It's not that bad. Okay. These are guys that are absolutely serviceable in fantasy football. That's why we kind of capped it off here at 44. We got Jordan Mason at RB 35, Ramondre Stevenson 36, Zach Charbonnet 37, Isaac Orendo 38, J.K. Dobbins 39, Tank Bigsby 40, Rashad White 41, Cam Scatterbo 42. I'll have to figure out how to pronounce his name. Austin Eckler 43 and Braylon Allen 44. I've heard it Scatterbo, and there's only one O, so I'm thinking it's Bo. I'm thinking it's Cam Scatterbo, and I should have really paid attention as a Giants fan.
Yeah.
But that being said, all these guys are absolutely serviceable on your fantasy roster. These are guys that are either, at this point, you're looking at the second string guy on a given team that is going to be that's kind of, we're sort of confident that they might get 10 touches a game and a few catches, something along those lines. And then at this point, you're looking at the 80 to 100 range. These are guys that you're hopeful that they're kind of like sleepers. They might not necessarily be starting in your flex. If they are, you're okay with it. But on the back burner, if their starter gets hurt, this is a guy that all of a sudden opens up to being a big fantasy value if the guy in front of them goes down. So Jordan Mason on the Vikings, we'll see how he splits time with Aaron Jones. I'm personally, you saw me, I'm high on Aaron Jones. It might be a little bit of a nostalgia. I had him for so many years in the past, but he did objectively have a good year to kick it off last year. And it'll come down to the split, the touches at the end of the day. You said the thing about Ramondre.
These rumors in camp aren't just coming out of nothing, right? I mean, it feels weird, right? Like you have a 2023 brain on. How is Aaron Jones going to split a backfield with Jordan Mason, right? But we're in 2025. You gotta be.
Jordan Mason's a good back. He did a lot of good for the 49ers. So we'll see about that. But Ramondre Stevenson, you already said, he's going up against a rookie. Stevenson is a sort of like proven stable flex-ish RB2-ish type running back. If he got given the rock, you would expect that kind of production again. The fumbling issue, this is going to be a does Vrabel give him the rock kind of a situation. But if he goes down, he's right back to being one of those RB2 flex guys.
Mhm.
Zach Charbonnet, expect a little bit better from him this year, but again, Kenneth Walker, is he going to creep up on his touches at all? And if Kenneth Walker gets hurt at any point, we saw it. Charbonnet popped off a couple times last year. Isaac Guerrero, I'm super excited about him personally. He's my favorite in this tier.
Now, how can you be
Absolute
so
stud.
excited on him but think that Christian McCaffrey's going to be
I
healthy?
can be excited about two guys on the same team, right? It's not that big a deal. Like the Chargers, obviously Najee Harris is going to have a great year as well as Amari Hampton. But no, the main point being a great talent in what should be, again, a fantasy friendly offense. Didn't have a great year last year, like the 49ers as a whole. But you expect them to keep being fantasy relevant and producing fantasy stars. And if Chris McCaffrey, God forbid, he goes down, that's an absolute steal. You need to have him on your team if you have Christian McCaffrey because he could end up being the league winner.
Yes,
J.K.
you've got to
Dobbins,
overdraft Guerrero by 2.5 rounds if you have Christian McCaffrey.
right.
That is an absolute
Um,
must.
Right. Dobbins felt like a little bit of a he got like a little bit of a raw deal at the end of last year. He had such a good year with the Chargers in that Jim Harbaugh offense, and they kind of let him go. And Jim Harbaugh talked so well of him. He loved him last year.
Mhm.
I'm sure he wasn't super happy to see him go. Should be productive, but all those things about RJ Harvey are coming out of camp. It's like how can you deny the talent and the youngness and the not to Achilles and ACL injury history of J.K. Dobbins. Um, but just based off of last year, you would expect him to still be productive, to be good in a decent Denver offense. And again, if RJ Harvey goes down or something like that, J.K. Dobbins would take the reins. This also might be a situation where RJ Harvey just doesn't get as big of a volume share as we expected. So that's that. Tank Bigsby again. It'll just come down to that Jacksonville offense. All of these are falling in that. Do they take enough share from the RB1? And if the RB1 goes down, you're pumped to have him on your team. Maybe with the exception of Austin Eckler, I think he's kind of set in his position at this
Yeah.
tier, even though I love him. And then I gotta shout out my man Braylon Allen again. Not a Jets fan, you are, but I'm really high on him. He's 21 years old and just decking people in preseason games. You got to be excited about him. We'll see what the Jets can do on offense. But if they're one of those teams that's gonna like run a million times, like the Bears did with Justin Fields 3 years ago, then you'd be pumped to have him as your 44th ranked running back. So
Right.
that's the F tier. Harsh grade, not that bad. You got any serious opinions about this tier?
Yeah, so it really comes down to if a starter gets injured, these guys are obviously not going to be RB40. They're going to jump up to RB20 because of a prospect of opportunity, right? I personally think, and I made this clear a little bit earlier, that I think that Jordan Mason is actually going to steal a decent amount of touches from Aaron Jones, kind of be a 1A, 1B situation, and I think he could be a little bit
Okay.
higher than that. Isaac Arendo, I mean, it just depends on the CMC health. I have him pretty high in my rankings because I am accounting for Christian McCaffrey losing 4 games in my statistical calculations. So I have Isaac
Okay,
Arendo pretty
cool.
high as a prospect of that. And like it's gonna be Tank Bigsby versus Travis Etienne. Who is going to win the backfield? I have them flipped. I have Tank Bigsby getting a little bit of a larger share than Travis Etienne just because of Travis Etienne's putrid efficiency on the ground. He's been averaging less than 4 yards per carry for basically the last 2 seasons. But I'm staying away from that Jacksonville Jaguars running back room at all costs because they also have Bashal Tuden, who's getting a decent amount of preseason buzz. That is going to be a third horse to feed in that running back room, and I just can't get it in myself to take a shot on any of them. But the only thing that I want to say here is that I do think you missed 2 guys who I think we have to at least talk about a little bit because it's not just an injury that could get in their way of getting into fantasy relevance, right? I mean, it's other guys we kept off the list like Trey Benson, Braylon Allen, or not Braylon Allen, Trey Benson, Jalen Wright, Tyler Algier, right? Those guys, like obviously the star running backs.
Tyler Algier probably should have been left on this list.
Yeah, but
I
my,
think he
my
gets
point stands is
overshadowed.
whether he's 41 or 46, whatever it is, right? Like it's clear that a star running back has to get injured and he has a real path to fantasy relevance. But
Right.
a guy who I think 2 guys who you missed that we need to talk about are Caleb Johnson on the Steelers and Quidshaw Junkins on the Cleveland
No,
Browns. You don't have any.
That's a great point.
You have no Cleveland Browns representation at all in your top 44 running backs.
I have no confidence.
Let me remind you that there are 32 teams in the NFL, so you think that there's going to be 12 backup running backs who outperform a single running back on the Cleveland Browns. And I think that Caleb Johnson, he was a third-round pick, which is a pretty high draft pick for a running back, a rookie running back. And the Steelers love him. And Arthur, let's just talk about it like this, right? It's a backup running back, maybe for now. I don't know how they have it listed on the depth chart. Arthur Smith loved to give Tyler Algier the ball when he was in Atlanta, right? I mean, there's going to be opportunities for Caleb Johnson, and all of Steelers brass is so high on Caleb Johnson. I think that he's going to score more points at the end of the season than Jaylen Warren does in totality. At the very least, by the time the season's at end, he's going to be a better play than Jaylen Warren at your flex spot.
You point that out, and I'm like, actually, yes, I would be targeting him in my keeper leagues 1,000 times over. I see ESPN has him just below Jaylen Warren, but they project him to have 70 more carries. That's insane. So if Caleb Johnson is going to get all those carries, then yes, absolute sin of me not to include him on the list. But I tend to not want to give him the confidence in that volume quite yet, just because we've seen the Steelers use Jaylen Warren so much and love him. I think we might see somewhat similar to the Jaylen Warren Najee Harris split that we saw in the past, and then Caleb Johnson maybe takes it over halfway through the year and is the one who gets the favorite. But yeah, I mean, it'll come back to if the Steelers are already good. But you're right, Caleb Johnson, amazing talent out of college. Do you have anything else to say on Caleb Johnson?
Yeah, I'm saying that ESPN's got him at rank 29. I also have him at rank 29, and you have him off your list of 44 running backs. So we have some massive disagreement on the role of Caleb Johnson in this Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
Fair enough. I think it's one of those things where if you hear enough about rookies at a camp, there's some that just pop off, and everyone's so hype on them that they end up going like in the top 3 rounds or whatever, like RJ Harvey. And then you have other ones that don't get any recognition, and then they end up doing amazing.
Right.
And the perfect example of this on the wide receiver front was Puka Nacua. If anyone paid attention to Rams camp, they would have seen that he was getting targeted about 15 times a game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So one of those things where anyone can be proven wrong on rookies. I hope I'm proven wrong on Caleb Johnson. I have so many Steelers friends. I'm just like, they deserve to have something besides a 9-win season for once. Now, obviously, you're a Jets fan.
They won't. I mean, they are going to go 9-8. That is written in the scripture by the gods.
It's written in the scripture already. And then I also really did want to touch on the Cleveland running back situation, because ESPN's projecting them to have about 300 carries split between the two of them. That is Jerome Ford, and now they have.
Well, you have Dylan Sampson. It's a 3 running back room. You've got Quidshot Junkins, Jerome Ford, and Dylan Sampson in that Cleveland running back.
Dylan Sampson, if he comes on, then more power to him. But ESPN has Quidshot Judkins projected 193 carries now. This is after being completely disregarded because of the pending legal action, and we still have to wait out back.
Why would the Browns care about that?
Hey, the Browns are an upstanding organization who definitely makes roster decisions based off of the legal standing of their players. Quidshot Judkins still has to wait and hear back what the NFL is going to impose on him. And similar to a Rashee Rice situation, they might push that decision back to midseason, and then he might get suspended in the middle of the season. So, as a talent, I watched Judkins out of college, and he was a stud. So, 193 carries, not so sure. But if he does get those, then yes, he should be a top 30 running back. Jerome Ford, on the other hand, he's projected 100 carries here. It's a vice versa. It's a volume thing. If is one of them going to get the volume? And I think leading up to this point, if Judkins didn't play at all, I would have had Jerome Ford probably in the 40-ish range. But with the uncertainty, it's like, what are you going to get? So, but that's a good point. Cleveland running backs, if you can figure it out by draft day, if you hear more news at a camp before you do your drafts, definitely pay attention to that, because these could be those guys that are not getting properly assessed going into these drafts based off of the volume. So pay attention to the news at a camp.
Yes.
Good shout on that one.
Any other closing
thoughts on that?
I've got Quidshot Junkins as my running back 35. I think he's going to take over that Cleveland Browns running back room. Like you said, you do really have to worry about some pending legal action. I don't think it's going to be a significant suspension if he gets one at all. I think it would be 1, maybe 2 games max But seeing the way that the NFL hands out suspensions, I mean, he's not going to get a 3, 4, 5, 6 game suspension for that. So.
Fair point. And a small note on strategy. When you get to this point in the draft with running backs, it's so far down. You're talking about 100, 120 plus. These are the kinds of guys that you want to be swinging for the fences. So this is not the time, and I hate to say this because I love Austin Eckler so much, and he's in this F tier here for a reason. But he's in this F tier with so many young guys that have that swing for the fence. So if you get to a situation like this, you want to go for one of those guys that if they can sub in, might win your league. The Isaac Orendos.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe not necessarily the Austin Ecklers, but
a Zach Charbonnet.
Like you're happy with some of these guys, but there's others that you're like, if they get the starting job, God forbid the starting running back gets hurt, they could be absolute league winners. Those are the guys you want to go for. If you don't find someone that's a rookie that's been making noise in camp and they're just not projecting him to have that many touches, don't swing at those running backs at that point at all. This is why it's so crucial to have a healthy core 1-2 punch at running back early on. If you can fill your flex with running back, that's great. Beyond that, your bench should not be filled with these sort of low ceiling running backs. You want the guys that have the massive upside when you need it later in the season.
And absolutely, and that's what you need to be doing. I don't usually recommend this strategy. It obviously has an extremely high upside if you collect those really, really good wide receivers and you hit on those running backs late in the draft. If you do go with the 0 RB strategy, like I said, I do not recommend that. But if you do, you're not drafting guys like Austin Eckler to be your RB2 or your RB3. You're drafting guys like Zach Charbonnet, who maybe could take over a backfield, Jordan Mason, who could maybe take over a backfield, and you're taking those guys later in the like even later, like 12, 13 round, who, if there is an injury to the starting running back, that they can come in and be a RB2 level player. Like for me, I've said it a few times, like Trey Benson. I really liked what I've seen out of Trey Benson in both his rookie year and in preseason this year. If James Conner ever was to suffer injury, or even just, he's getting up there in age. I think he was drafted in 2017 or something like that. So he's getting up there in age.
Hey, don't be ageist now.
Don't be ageist now. My bad.
He's a solid.
At his advanced age, right? If he ends up, regressing a little bit, he could make a difference. Those are the guys you really want to be targeting. You really want to be targeting those split backfields. Like I said, it's a really high risk strategy. But if you're going 0 RB, you take the shot on Tank Bigsby, and he ends up winning 60% of the backfield. You take the shot on Quinshon Judkins, he ends up winning 70% of the backfield. You could have drafted some RB2s right there in round 12 and 13 or whatever they're going at, and in rounds 1, 2, and 3, you could have gotten Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, and Tyreek Hill or some shit like that, right? So.
Right. So good luck to you guys. We know that a lot of drafts are coming up this weekend, so good luck, and hopefully you can take some of these pointers off and do that. And Connor, I want to thank you for only handing out a few slaps and a few flicks today. I feel much better about my rankings after that. We look forward to getting you guys some receiver rankings and some other positions going forward. Hopefully we can squeeze out a few more before everyone's done with their drafts in the preseason. But good luck. Thank you for joining us in episode 3. And we can't wait to see you on the next sponsored GogertZone podcast.
Yes, and the link for that Discord channel, if you are interested, will be in the description of this video. So make sure to check it out. We'll be active in that Discord channel. So if you have any mailbag questions, or we have a trade advice tab and a sit-start decision tab, and we got you for all your fantasy football needs. Don't you worry, baby girl.
Don't baby girl. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.